Okay, Grant, yours.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Hello and welcome everyone to the June meeting of the board. I'm going to just do a call to order, and again, people are popping around, but I will try and get everyone in order as I see them. So Bill.
Here.
Glenn.
Yep.
Vandana.
Yes.
And Mr. Griffith, welcome for your first meeting of the board.
Here. Yep. Thank you.
And I too am here. We are still waiting on Matt and on Avi. Avi has sent his excuses. He's going to be a little late, but he should be joining us as soon as he can. I think he's getting on a plane. With that, just a reminder, the conflict of interest and antitrust statement for the OWASP Foundation. Should anything be discussed this evening that you think might be a conflict of interest to you as a director, please mention it before the conversation starts so we can make a determination should that be necessary. Any changes to the agenda obviously needs to go through the process as per normal, the Robert's Rules of Order process. And then I'll start with the approval of the minutes. I did just update the link, but they're pointing at the right minutes now.
Yeah, I apologize. I should have checked that last week.
No worries. Everybody knows where to find them, so they could have had a look around. But to that end, I will ask for a vote on that. Starting with you, Bill. You approve the minutes?
Yes.
And then Matt, who's joined us. Matt, you approve the minutes?
I do, yes.
And you are indeed present.
I am indeed present.
Glenn?
Yep.
Vandana?
Muted.
Vandana?
Yes. Sorry, I was not able to unmute. Yes.
Okay. And it's jumping around again, so I don't know where I was. Who have I not called on?
Lewis.
Lewis?
Yep.
And it's a yes from me as well.
Okay.
And then with that, Andrew, can I hand it over to you for the board package?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Because we've got a packed agenda today, I will go through it as quickly as possible. And then I'll hand over to Shelby. The migration to charity CFO has begun. If you're waiting for me to answer emails, this is one of the reasons why. There's a lot of tasks to be done. Approximately 40 tasks, including potentially opening a new bank account with JP Morgan Chase. We are looking to constrain expenses and boost income. You'll see that with Shelby's report to this month that, again, we haven't made our income or expenses budget. And so the slowdown is real for us. And so we need to be very cognizant of any additional spending. Looks like Appset Singapore is going to be an item of interest. Bill is coming to a meeting tomorrow morning. We have limited numbers of registrants and limited numbers of sponsors at this point. We are looking at ways to turn this around, but I just wanted the board to know that that is actively being pursued at this very moment. It doesn't look like we may want to cancel, but at the same time, we may want to cancel. I'll leave it up to Bill to inform the board of what his, what his opinion is. We'll be meeting tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. my time, 8 a.m. his time. I apologize for such an early meeting, Bill.
So good.
Okay, we're basically with the operations, it's very cyclical. With the accounts payable run twice a month, you can see that the tickets go between 100% and 0% as the tickets go through. I think we need to find a better metric than these SLAs that are canned out of Jira. At the end of the day, I think this is not very informative and doesn't give you a true picture of, are we actually meeting our goals? Okay, with that, are there any questions before I hand over to Shelby? Okay, Shelby, I'll stop sharing.
All right, thank you. I'll pick it up where you left off. Okay. So I'm going to jump right into monthly revenue. So during the month of May, revenue was $253,000. The approved budget was $319,000 approximately. So we're about $66,000 under the monthly budget for May. That leads me into year-to-date revenue. So year-to-date revenue through May is $1,163,000. We had budgeted $1,335,000, so we're about $172,000 under the approved budget in revenue. So I can break that down a little further. Corporate membership is at $128,000, which is about $59,000 under the budget of $187,500. Individual membership came in at $123,000, which is only $2,000 under the budget of $125,000. Project and technology income is at $57,000, which is $28,700 ahead of the budget. In May, OWASP received $24,000 for a CRS Gold sponsor. $500 was allocated from corporate membership to the Defect Dojo project. About $2,000 was received for mobile security and Stripe, and then another $25 was received for the App Security Verify project in Stripe. Donations and grants are about $21,000, which is $24,000 under the budget of $45,000. In May, we received about $61 for the Poland chapter, $1,200 for Orange County, a couple other small donations for Amazon Smile and Blackbaud. We did get a payout from Crest for Q4 2022 and Q1 2023, and that total was $2,700. And then event income is at $833,000, which is about $113,000 under the budget of $946,000. To break down event income year to date, again, we had Dublin registrations at 296. Sponsorship plus training for Dublin came in at 297. Snowfrock, we had $72,000 of revenue. German Day, 24,000. AppSec Israel, 133,000, and BASC, 17,000 of revenue there. There's no questions on revenue. I'll jump into expenses. I'm actually going to go straight into the year-to-date expenses just to give the big picture. So through May, expenses were $1,329,000, which is about $29,000 under the budget of $1,358,000. So slightly under in expenses. And just a note here, I did move the AppSec San Francisco hotel bill on an accrual basis to 2022, so we can match those expenses with that income. And then the 2022 accrual income for, after moving that bill, I just wanted to give it to you guys. It's $620,000 for last year, just as a comparison. Okay, so the biggest variances in your expenses, events are about $54,000 over budget, and the main thing here is the $45,000 in spend for German Day that was not budgeted in the original approved budget. And then G&A is under budget by about $108,000. The biggest differences here. So you're about $47,000 under in your travel budget, $11,000 under in software and internet, and about $38,000 under in your staffing allocation. Okay, I'll jump right into year-to-date net income. So the net loss as of May is $166,000. The budget had approved a loss of 23,000. So the actual loss is larger than the budget by about 143,000. And the biggest variances, as I noted before, it's conference income coming in 113,000 less than budget, and membership income being 62,000 less than budget. We're a little under in expenses, so that offset the difference, but not enough to make up for being under. And then just for reference, net income is down from May of last year by about $91,000. Okay, AR is at 404,000. It's up 125,000 from the prior period. About 5.8% of that is over 90 days past due. That's down from 17%, which is good. It means we've collected some of those older ARs, or we've effectively rented them off. Most AR, about 78%, is less than 30 days overdue, which is also good. Okay, your cash balance is 2,167,000, which is about 85,000 less than April and 537,000 more than the cash balance last year. That's a 33% increase year over year. Operating reserves, so if you take out AP and the project balance, you have about 1.8 million in cash. This is 171,000 less than April. That gives you 9.9 months of reserves. And then if you factor in all expenses, you have 7.5 months of reserves. So as Andrew noted before, your reserves are getting smaller. And so looking for some income to offset those expenses is a great idea. And if anyone has any questions, I'll take them now.
What I'd probably suggest is, as events are central to a lot of what Shelby's narrative is, I think we should skip ahead to the events, and the events team, I think, is here. So the board can actually get a sense of where we're at with various things. Does that make sense, or do you want to just leave that for another day? Okay.
So I was going to say, Andrew, I've got a fairly good idea of where we're at, but if the rest of the board would like, we do have a packed agenda, but if you'd like to hear from Kelly and Aaron, that would be, we can make time for that.
Okay, I'm not hearing anybody, so we'll just move on to the actual agenda. Let me just kick on sharing screen again. First item, go for it. Project funding discussion.
Yes, and we have Donnie, who's joined us by telephone. So to that end, Donnie, would you like to just have a couple of minutes to tell the board what the status is here and where you're at and what you were offering? There was a conversation that was happening on Slack that we can perhaps talk about.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I've been trying to, I've been kind of spearheading a mission here to get funding for projects. I've been involved in some grants before, and I'm familiar with the process. So I figured, why not help out OWASP with these, with this recent request for funding of the projects and movement in that area. So I started a Funding Friday meetup every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm going to have a huddle on Slack, and it'll be kind of a community-driven effort to write a grant and apply for grants. I found a list of over 200 potential grants. There's so many grants out there. I'm sure that we can get one. And I feel like if we have such a large community here that we can spend some time to put together a grant and get the projects that are requiring funding funded. So my next step will be to kind of figure out which projects want funding. There was about 10 or so, 9 or 10 with the initial documents that have been sent in. and I
Mhm.
think I'll tally them all up and figure out what is the grand total that we should apply for, and figure out if that makes sense to do it like that, or maybe we can do like a grant, like a blanket grant where, for example, we apply for $1 million and each project gets 100,000 or something like that. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking of, and I'd like this to be an ongoing effort, kind of like a weekly cadence of check-in on project funding and initiatives.
Thank you very much, Donnie. Does anyone from the board have a question for him?
I just have one question. Where is it in the project committee channel that you'll be doing the huddle?
That's in the it's in hashtag funding. I created a special channel for it, and this is an initiative from the project committee. I'm secretary of the project committee, so I'm doing it out of that committee, and you know, it's not going to require a separate committee. This is just going to be a project from the project committee, and I'm volunteering to do this, so letting you know.
Really appreciate that, Donnie.
My pleasure.
It may, as you said, this is something that needs to become an ongoing thing. It may be worthwhile spinning up a funding committee specifically to do that, because obviously projects need funding now, but there are other aspects that can also benefit from a grant system that works properly.
Mhm.
So the work that you're starting now, this is hopefully something we can extend into much larger things.
Yeah, possibly. We
Although
thought
it sounds
about
like you've got some pretty big plans.
yeah, we might want to be agile in the beginning. Maybe, yeah, you're right. Maybe it does turn out to be something bigger.
Yeah,
If you
I think
want,
for now we're absolutely happy for the agile.
if you want some
Cool.
publicity, please hassle us. We take blog posts, and we also do social media as well. So if there's any way that we can help you promote this
Yeah.
wonderful activity, let us know.
Yeah, it's definitely something we could use for sure. So I guess I'll put together a post or something.
Yep.
Perfect.
All we need
Okay.
is some text and a headshot, and we can post it.
Awesome. Thank you.
If there are no questions for Donnie, the next agenda item kind of dovetails nicely into this one, but I'm going to hold here just for questions from the board. Does anyone have a question for him, or comments? Or I do recommend that you reach out on Slack. There are conversations happening in that channel, and I'm sure that's where a lot of the questions can be answered as well. If there are no questions, then Matt, I'm going to throw the ball to you, because it kind of dovetails nicely into the enterprise advisory report that came up. You want to take us through that, talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So the background on this is that I bumped into a longtime OWASP person, community member, Jerry Hoff, while at RSA. He and I kind of reconnected after not having seen each other for a while. And he was saying that just because of where his life is currently, he has some time and would like to do something for OWASP. And one of the things in some back and forth with him that he wanted to do was, he has a pretty good Rolodex, if people remember what those are, contact list of like C-level type people in the AppSec industry and in a whole bunch of other industries. And his idea was to do what he's calling an enterprise advisory report. The gist of that is to talk to a bunch of CISOs, CEOs, whatever, at larger companies, and find out if they're using OWASP projects, what OWASP projects are using, what's the, what value are they getting out of them, with the goal to have a better sort of recipe to talk to these companies and try to get support and funding. Because if they're using OWASP today and they want that to stay around, they kind of, it would help if they gave us some funding. So his goal is to have 6 months where he does a whole bunch of reaching out to either current sponsors or non-sponsors to find out how much OWASP projects they're using, and then kind of do a phase 2, which would be a summary of sort of the current state of things at OWASP, and then phase 3 would be ongoing to do some reporting to look to see how that funding is happening. The kind of goal is to be able to leverage what Jerry can learn if and when we hire someone to do that kind of corporate fundraising, or at least to optimize our current efforts, so we have sort of the right talking points. That's kind of the overview.
Any questions from the board format on that? There was an email chain where Matt gave a lot of the history. If you have some questions, please feel free to raise them out or reach out to Matt afterwards.
I'm very supportive of this. It's one of the things that's mystifying to me is that we don't have very many fintech or financial institutions as corporate members, and we know that they use our stuff pretty heavily. So learning from the actual horse's mouth, what is the issues and how we can better support them, I'm very much in favor of. So I'd be more than happy to be involved in this.
Yeah, definitely. And Jerry will need a little bit of time, at least of Kelly's time, to understand like where our corporate sponsors are. We've discussed this via email prior, but just so that the world knows that he will be asking a little bit of Kelly's time to just understand who are our current sponsors, et cetera, and then reaching out to them as well as the people he knows. But I love this idea too. I love the idea of getting us much more focused on the corporate supporters who generally have deeper pockets and are using the heck out of our stuff.
And I'm sure Kelly is quite eager to have a new list of potential targets.
Yeah,
So
I'm here, Matt. So whenever he wants to get in touch with me, I'm available.
Okay, yeah, I got an email from him last night. He's in European time currently. I think
Okay,
he's in Germany, but yeah, I'll connect him with you either today or tomorrow. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'll connect the two of you and we can get rolling on this.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
cool, excellent.
The next one's Arby. He's not here yet. Shall we postpone this one to the end?
We can do. Maybe let's start with the compliance committee discussion then first, because the two kind of go together in several ways. So the compliance committee has we've apparently got a habit of sniping the new members of the compliance committee to join the board, looking at both Bill and Fiona, after many years on the compliance committee, is stepping down. What this effectively means is that, like all committees, when they cease to exist, the responsibilities of that committee fall back to the board. So effectively, if we don't find someone to replace Fiona on the compliance committee, then we as a board will end up fulfilling those duties. Is there any more to say on that topic, Andrew?
Yeah, there was a proposal a few years ago that ex-board members would volunteer to become part of the compliance committee, but as yet, no one's done that. It is a really good idea because the board generally knows the bylaws pretty well and our policies, and has shown good judgment. Dawn?
Dawn, I see your hand.
If that's the case, should I be adding board members to that list so they see the emails, or wait till it's official to the group, Google group?
So I think wait till it's official, Dawn. But
Okay.
I think in the meantime, Andrew, the proposal that you suggested, I was on the board when that was raised.
Yes.
When it's my time to roll off the board, I will definitely be joining the compliance committee. So if the board does take on the responsibilities as a full board of the compliance committee, at least you know it's only until the end of the year. At which point there will be a independent compliance committee again.
Yeah.
It is not ideal that the board is the compliance committee, because there is a reason the two are separated. It gives a little bit of independence to the committee and allows the board to only step in where decisions need to be made. And based on the advice of the compliance committee, so there is a separate process for that.
Yeah.
But if there's no one who we can select to take on the role, then it will have to fall to us.
What I would suggest is if there is a complaint about a board member, just to maintain the appearance and actuality of independence, we can put that complaint to the people who we've used in the past. It's a legal firm, it'll cost us money, but we don't have many complaints about the board. So I think this is an unlikely occurrence. So
it also technically, the compliance committee doesn't actually at this point have oversight over the board, which is something we should probably change for the future. But if there was a complaint about the board, it would have to go to the board to resolve for our current bylaws. At least I think that's the case.
Yeah.
Matt, correct me if I'm wrong.
That's my understanding as well.
Yeah, no, that's correct.
Okay. So to that end, I think if the board would like to take a couple of days to think about potential candidates, and if we can't find a potential candidate in the meantime, I think myself and Avi, Dawn, just correct me, have been added, so we are at least aware of what's coming in.
Okay,
And if we don't find someone within the next week or so, then I think it should be the full board gets access to that channel again. Until we do find someone, or until I become that someone. So that brings us to the Diversity and Outreach Committee. At the end of last year, sorry, this was, as Andrew said, it was Avi's discussion to have, but at the end of last year, I believe we had a request from the committee to merge those two committees. It was a diversity committee and an outreach committee, and they requested that the board allowed them to merge the two committees. And we approved that at the time. However, effectively what happens when you merge two committees is that you dissolve them both and a new one is formed. And part of the formation of a new committee is that the committee has to put forward its charter, and we have to, as a board, approve that charter. But unfortunately, we have not yet received a charter from the newly formed Diversity and Outreach Committee. So right now they're in limbo as well. They don't have a mandate, they don't have a charter, which means that the work that they're doing is still happening as part of volunteer work, but they don't actually have the responsibilities or the rights given to them by the board, because we haven't approved a charter yet, which means that effectively that unless we have a charter, those rights and responsibilities fall back to the board as well. So we're in much the same position as we are with the compliance committee there. We have reached out to the Diversity and Outreach Committee a number of times. I think we need to make a decision around whether they have a charter and are going to be doing the work, or whether, and that may mean that we have to write the charter for them, or whether this responsibility and everything else falls back to the board. And I think Avi was a proponent of the latter until the outreach committee or the outreach and diversity committee actually do complete a charter and bring it to the board. And then we form them at that point.
I have a question,
Does-
Brent, if I can.
Sure.
So how many
Absolutely.
other boards or committees is the board already assuming? So there-
Right now, sorry, say again?
Sorry, go ahead.
So effectively all committees exist with a charter given to them by the board, and the board then gives them responsibilities and rights to eke out or to make use of that charter and to fulfill the goals that are in that charter. So everything that isn't with a committee effectively falls on us as a board. There are a number of committees that are active and that have charters that are valid and in place, like the
Mm.
project committee, like the chapters committee. There are others I can't think of offhand though. Andrew, help me out
Yeah,
here.
there's projects. The one that we want to create is events. Martin Knobloch is interested in forming that. We have the chapters committee, which is very active. The project committee we heard from Donnie earlier today. So I think realistically, the outreach committee has also been hamstrung. The diversity committee has been hamstrung by term limits for one of the major volunteers in that area.
Yeah, so
It may be worthwhile revisiting the term limits in the committee policy. It's just at the end of the day, we should be trying to find new blood for these committees anyway. But the lack of action in diversity and outreach is sort of harming our mission. We would, I think, be wise to bring it in just for temporarily, and then try to get a reestablishment just to focus people's minds on the actual activity. This shouldn't be forever.
no, it definitely shouldn't be forever, because what it will mean is that if we take on the responsibilities of these committees, it will mean that a board member will have to champion those aspects of the things. So someone will have to step forward and take on diversity and outreach, which can be two very different things, as their charter.
I should also note that outgoing board members, and there's potentially there's up to potentially 4 outgoing board members this year, but we know that 2 have hit term limits. You can join committees as well as the compliance committee.
Absolutely. You don't have to join me on the compliance committee. You can go and I get the other, I think, Vandana, you're the other one who's the reach term
Right.
limits.
Yes, you and I.
So we may have a potential outreach or diversity committee member right there. And I see Avi has joined us.
Yes, Avi just joined. Hi, Avi.
He's
He's
getting
muted.
audio connected. Muted and camera off.
I am
It's
in the
usually-
airport,
Ah,
waiting on
okay.
passport control, so I'll be in and out for a few minutes.
Okay. Avi, we've actually managed to get through most of the discussions, including the one on diversity and outreach on the committee. We're just at the point where we need to make a decision about what the next steps are there. I know that we've asked for a charter a number of times. And if we don't have a charter, that means that we as a board essentially need to take on that responsibility again until we have a committee with a charter and one that's approved by the board. Comments? Suggestions?
I really
Thoughts?
do think since the committee was formed by a motion, there should be a motion to bring it in.
Vandana, I see your hand.
Yeah, I actually was about to say the same thing which Andrew mentioned, because I think we need to just tell them via email that we've been following up with you for quite some time now. And if it does not happen, we would take this action. Maybe I think just one mail would be enough for them to get started. And because this information we started last year and we've told them a couple of times. So I think it's the time where we start taking actions. Because people have started asking about the committee.
So effectively, the motion, Andrew, if I'm correct, the
Mm.
motion that was taken at the end of last year was the dissolution of the 2 existing committees, and permission was given to form a new committee. And the requirement was that they had to create a charter. So we haven't actually ratified the new committee. So I don't know that we need a motion to pull it back into the board. It effectively hasn't left us because we haven't approved the charter.
If I remember correctly, Grant, at the time where we gave it provisionally, we granted the tentative charter provisionally for them to go ahead and continue and operate as if. until the charter is actually formalized. That never actually happened. So I think it's just a question of retracting that provisional permission. But I think we need to check to verify the.
Yeah, the wording is resolve the OWASP Foundation Board of Directors authorizes the merger of the OWASP BA Diversity and Inclusion Committee and the OWASP Outreach Committee to form the OWASP Diversity and Inclusion Outreach Committee, calling for the charter of the new committee to be rewritten to encompass the scopes and purposes of the two committees to be dissolved and authorizing the closure of those two committees. So we authorize the closure of the
Well, there you
previous
go.
two committees. Right. So a motion is required.
I will leave
Sounds
that.
like job done.
Matt, do you concur?
I do.
Okay, so then let's put together a motion and then do this via e-vote.
Right, sure.
Can I have a second if I sponsor that motion?
I can second.
Thank you, Anana. Okay. That brings us to actual motions.
Can I ask one question, Grant?
Yes, Don.
Okay, so if you vote and say the vote goes to close these, and I officially close them on the webpage and everything like that? Is that what we would do?
Yes. If they don't have a charter and we vote to close it, then they will be closed. They will
Okay.
disappear on the website.
Okay, thank you.
But hopefully we will, before I write the motion, we will have a charter presented to us.
Or if that doesn't work, alternate committee leads that will form and create a new one.
Yeah, absolutely. We have very, very active volunteers and very, very busy volunteers. So I understand that it's hard, but we do need to do things right.
Yep.
Okay, that brings us, unless there's any other comments or any other topics for discussion. That brings us to the two motions that Andrew has up on the screen. The first one is to simplify the startup corporate sponsor or corporate supporter. The background of the motion is there. The reason I'm still talking is because I sponsored this motion. Essentially, what it is to do is to try and allow startups who are struggling to get to the scale-up point in their cycles because of what's happened with the global pandemic, to allow them to remain startups in our mind and in our financial books for a little longer. What it does do is it changes some of the rights or the benefits that those startup sponsors will get, but it allows them to remain a startup for longer. So it encourages them to, once they have moved into scale-up mode, to move up in corporate support levels with us, but it does allow them to at least, provide us with a little bit of support while they are still in startup mode. Are there any questions? I'm happy to take them. Very quiet today.
So what are the current startups that we have as corporate supporters thinking of the removing of some of the benefits?
So this would be imposed on new sponsors, right? Or on new terms for those sponsors.
Yeah, it would be anybody going forward that signs
Yeah.
So
up.
it's only new agreements.
Yeah, no, true, but I was just wondering if we, did some benchmarking on the ones that we already have and what their feedback was on this.
Honestly, I think there's only one company that is inquired about the trademark license out of 75, 80 corporate support. Like it's a benefit that nobody takes advantage of.
And the company that inquired about that would no longer be counted even under the new rules as a startup. If
Right.
the company is who I think it is, Kelly.
Yes. But I do agree that I think it should be, and I don't even, I'm not sure if this should have been a board vote, but changing it from the 2 years to the 3 years, I feel is beneficial, like you said, Grant, because of the pandemic. We changed it for the San Francisco, or I'm sorry, for the DC event, and we've seen a spike in startups there. So more and more companies were able to participate because they do qualify now for 36 months versus 24.
I did see a hand go up, but it's gone down again, so I don't know who it was.
I was there. I was just thinking that, do we need to publicize it where we need to tell people, because there are so many startups who might want to fund, but they have no idea how to do it, where to do it, whom to reach out to.
I would hope that if we do approve this, that Kelly will go very loud and very wide with it, so that she can get as many startups involved as possible.
For sure.
Yeah. And I'll do a blog post as well, so it's announced.
Perfect.
Perfect.
If there are no further questions or comments, I'd like to bring it to a vote. And hopefully the order stays what it was. Avi.
Sorry, it took me a moment to find the raise hand. I just want, you said it's only for new agreements. What about renewals? So for
Those
example, if there was a startup a year ago, is that a new agreement?
Yes.
Those are new agreements, yeah.
Mhm.
Good, excellent.
Okay. Then in the order I see in front of me, Bill,
Yes.
Avi,
Yes.
Glenn,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Vandana,
Yes.
and myself, yes, and Matt.
Yes.
I think I have everyone, and I think it was a yes from 7 people.
Yes.
Excellent. Then the next one down is the motion to repeal a Project Summit's operational vote. Andrew, if you can scroll down slightly. Unfortunately, my screen has frozen. Avi sponsored this. I seconded it. Avi, do you want to talk it through? Are you able to, or do you want me to?
I'm also happy to talk about it.
Yeah, I could try doing that. I'm about to walk out. Yeah, basically in the past, there was a vote due to historical circumstances. And I think this was 2017. A vote was taken that every OWASP summit has to be attached to a global AppSec event only for historical reasons. And this seems
Unfortunately, Avi, you're breaking up.
Avi, we
as you
can't hear
move.
you.
Okay, to finish up what Avi was saying, this was a vote created historically, which essentially tied the summits to global AppSec events, and we'd like to allow the foundation to run summits as and where they deem fit. It just takes, there's no reason to stifle the innovation that could possibly happen in this area. We would like to allow the foundation to do it again. Because a board vote, put it into the situation, a board vote is required to undo that. And effectively the motion is resolved that the 2017-09-17 board decision on attaching summits to AppSec events is repealed effective immediately. Are there any questions about that? Doesn't sound like any. Okay, then I will call it. Oh, Vandana.
Just one thought. Why do we want to pick it up from the past? Like, any specific reason that we have in mind for this?
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so Project Summits for example, are now things that can only happen this year at either in Singapore or in DC, whereas the projects team might want to run a project summit that's completely separate from those two events. Today, because of a historical board vote, that's not possible. But it is something that we want to allow to happen. It's something, well, at least it's something that I think we should want to allow to happen. It's definitely something that the projects committee and that the that Harold, responsible for projects, is quite keen to have happen.
Got it.
The last couple of project summits have been very poorly attended. And in fact, you could probably just describe it as a room where people went and sat down and charged their laptops rather than achieved anything. We've got to find and innovate a new format that will actually get things done.
And it's the only effective things that the project summits have done for the last couple of years have been essentially like an extra track at the global event where projects could showcase their activities. And we intend to keep that, but it isn't really the same as a project summit. Project summit is supposed to be where we put a bunch of project members in a room together so they can get some work done on a project and achieve some outcome. So effectively, we just want to give the foundation the ability to make that decision again.
And just to emphasize, this is clearly something that should absolutely be operational, this decision.
Yeah. The only reason we're making this decision now, again, is because a board vote blocked it, and we just need to unlock it again as a board.
Got it.
So with no further hands, Matt,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Avi,
Yes.
Glenn,
Yep.
Louis,
Yes.
Vandana,
Yes.
and it's a yes for me as well. I believe that was all 7 of us.
Yep.
It's so good to have 7 again.
Okay, the next part of the business is actually scheduled to be at 1 p.m, not 12 p.m, sorry, 1 p.m, which is 8 minutes from now. Shall we adjourn this part of the meeting?
Yeah, as we're going to go into an executive session, I would like to call the board meeting to an end. So it is moved. Do I have a second?
Yes.
Thank you,
Second.
Vandana. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ready.
Okay.
Board, if you wouldn't mind hanging on or coming back at least on the hour. So it gives you a chance to go grab a cup of coffee or